Hello guys, and today I'm going to talk about the surprising topic which may come as a big surprise to people living in Britain, about me being scammed at Tesco. Now, what do I mean by being scammed? Do I mean that I paid more than necessary for a product? No. Now, I want to be fair to Tesco first of all. I've not yet complained to Tesco, and I've not yet complained to a manufacturer, but I intend to, and once they respond, I also intend to complain to the government to try to put the culprits in prison. But that's another matter. Right, now, of course, it probably won't go that far. They'll just get a huge fine if it happens at all. Now, you probably wonder, what the hell am I talking about? Well, this is was the only guaranteed to work headset, okay? And I use this one just for YouTube videos most of the time, okay? I rarely ever used it in any Skype calls or anything like that, just because I wanted a spare one that I knew worked as a backup, okay? So, because I've had a lot of problems with headsets, I decided to go and get another one. Because another one, I tried to put two headsets together, get one to make another headset, and it caused its own problems, and sometimes you got this terrible noise. So I thought I'd go out and buy another headset, okay? And I went into Tesco, which is a famous supermarket here, and I bought this. Now, this is a gaming headset for a PC, okay? So this is, they said it would work with a PC, and in fairness, it does work with a PC, okay? It will also work with a PlayStation and an Xbox, okay? And they give you a special adapter cable with it, so that you can either use a plug, which will work in an Xbox or a PlayStation, or with this adapter wire, you can plug it into that, and then you get the two plugs which will fit in a PC. That's not my complaint. No problems there. So what? And here is the headset. Does it work? Yes. You can talk into it. There's a microphone here. You can talk into the microphone and hear yourself through the headphones with it. So you might think, well, what am I complaining about then? What am I talking about being scammed for? Well, firstly, I want to make it clear that Tesco's is considered a reputable supermarket here. They normally sell food, but they also sell other things as well as food, okay? And just happened to be one of the shops that was open, to be very honest, at the time I went, okay? And I just happened to see it while I was there, okay? And Trust is also considered a reputable computer peripheral company. Now, I'm going to be honest, Trust are a budget, cheap computer company, peripheral company. They do, most of the stuff that I've seen is like cheap keyboards, cheap, peripherals, not necessarily the best quality, but in fairness, they do what they do. And I personally bought a lot of their stuff in the past, personally, right? For example, I have a graphics tablet made by them. Now, I'll be honest, it was a budget graphics tablet, okay? It was what it was. I doubt the professionals would use it. I don't think it was precise enough for professionals to use. But if you wanted the Trust version of a tablet, you paid about £60. If you wanted a professional one, you often paid at least £150, often more, for a professional quality one. Okay. Right, for people who are really, really interested. Whereas the £60 one was for the home users just interested in dabbling in it. Okay, but it was what it was. And in fairness, the last time I checked, it still worked. So I bought one many years ago. It still worked the last time I checked it. I have no complaints with the quality of the product in terms of how the reliability, or their products have always worked. And they've always done what they said they would do, but they weren't necessarily the best in terms of how well they did what they did. Like, as I said, there were better graphics tablets, which were more precise and things like that. But they did what they did, and I was happy. Now, until recently, they might think, why? Well, I walked into... When I got this product, okay, I, like most people, looked at the back of the box, okay, and here, you can easily see this. I'm trying to see where I can find this. It says it contains inline remote with volume control and volume mute. So the box claims that it has it's not just a headset with just, the headset and the microphone. It claims you also have a remote, an inline remote. That means a remote on the wire, which will have a volume control and a microphone mute button on that remote wire. Brilliant, I thought. Just what I'm looking for. So I can press a button now and again. If I feel like being quiet, I don't need to meddle with a mouse. If I'm lying in bed or something and I just want to talk to people and I just feel like being quiet for a while, I can just press this button and bingo, it will mute my microphone. And I can just do it. I had that with another headset which broke down, so I thought this would be a great feature. And one of the reasons I got this, okay? However, and just to prove I actually got it from Tesco's, here you'll notice it's got gaming headset £20. You'll have to take my word for it. This is the only way they described it, but it says gaming headset £20. Tesco Extra. And after I bought lots of food with it, the total was £37 because I bought lots of boxes of biscuits, which my mum likes. And they were in a bargain. They had a bargain on, so I bought lots of them, and some other things, okay, and some, painkillers and other stuff that you have to buy because they don't put them on the prescription here, and things like that, okay, and some toilet rolls and other stuff, okay. Now, what do you get instead? Well, you do get the headset part, which has the headphones and the microphone. You also get, as I said, the special wire, which allows you to connect a PC to a special plug which can be put straight into an Xbox or a PlayStation 4. Now, what do they have in between? Well, what you're supposed to get is a remote connection. But instead they've just given you this simple wire in between them. So you've got this, and then this very short extension wire. And then this. Now this was what was supposed to have the remote on, as opposed to have the mute button on. Now you probably think, well, maybe it's a faulty batch. Maybe it's a manufacturing problem. Maybe they just made a mistake in the manufacturing in some way. No. It's worse than that. They have done this deliberately. The manufacturer has deliberately and intentionally scammed people. Now, I'm absolutely astonished that Trust would do that, particularly as the name is Trust. I have never seen this company before as a company that scammed people. If I got something dodgy from, on import, especially from some small seller in China directly, I wouldn't have been surprised. I thought, well, I probably deserved it for being so stupid. If I got it from some dodgy stall, market stall somewhere, featuring a name nobody had ever heard of, I would have perhaps, not been so surprised, but well, it serves me right. But given I went to a reputable supermarket and I bought what is known here as a reputable brand, even though they're not the highest quality, but they are a reputable brand, I was absolutely astonished. Now, this was not a one-off. I went on the internet, and there are lots and lots of people who've complained about this. There are people who've reviewed it and said they had the same problem, that they just got a small wire and it did not have what it featured in the box. Now, what they have done, what the manufacturer's done, is quite simply illegal. It is against the law of the land to sell a product like that over here. If they were going to sell something like that over here, legally, the only way they could do it is to put a sticker on the box saying that they'd made a mistake and that the box was wrong and that it did not actually contain a remote, an inline remote. That is the only way they could legally sell this in this country, by putting a sticker over the offending parts of the box and correcting the fault. But they hadn't. The box, there was no sticker covering the box whatsoever. The box was exactly as I got it. And there were several other boxes there as well, so it wasn't as if I picked one of the boxes which hadn't had a sticker on covering it. I just picked up several just out of curiosity. I don't know why, I just did, and they all looked the same. So to be honest, I'm absolutely astonished that they would do this. I believe that Tesco's may have been duped by them, because they probably just bought the product in good faith. Maybe they got it as a special offer. Maybe Trust themselves know there was a problem with it, so they've decided to get rid of the product, and they thought they would get rid of it using a supermarket, hoping a lot of people wouldn't notice or complain. But it is plain wrong. Now, the dilemma I have is I actually think the headset's alright. It does what I want. But it doesn't do what I specifically wanted it to do. I want it to be able to, so I could turn down the volume and press mute, but I accept for £20 there probably aren't a lot of ones like that do have those facilities for £20 that will plug directly into a PC. I also like the idea that you have an adapter wire, so that if you wanted to, if this broke down in the future, I could use this adapter wire to, unless the adapter wire itself broke, just to plug in another headset made for an Xbox or PlayStation 4, and it would work. Because unfortunately, it's for some strange reason, no matter how much money you seem to spend on these things, they don't seem to last. Ironically, the one I'm currently wearing right now does have a volume control on it, and it costs less than £3. Whereas this one, which is, a professionally branded one, doesn't have the volume control in it that they said it would have. Now, I intend to contact the manufacturer about this. I intend to contact Tesco about this via email. I'm not going to waste my time in the store. I'll be dealing with nobody, so I want to see if I can take this to a national, customer service level. And I also want to then involve the government in this, because it would be very interesting to see what the government do about it. Because the last time I complained to trading standards, well, actually there's 2 times I've complained to trading standards. Once I complained to trading standards about a PVR I bought from Maplin's. Now, at the time, this was a long time ago, I'll be honest, right? And probably about 10 or 15 years ago, I can't remember, it was a long time, okay? And basically, they sold a PVR as having a 14-day program guide. About 2 months later, it was stated that program guide would no longer be transmitted, and so the box would no longer have a program guide at all. And that's not quite true. It would have a now and next program guide, so you could find out for each channel, you could find out what was on now and what would be on next. But if you wanted to find out what was on in 3 or 4 hours time, forget it, you wouldn't know. Unless you were watching a 3 or 4 hour program now, like the Eurovision, and then there'd be another program after the Eurovision, right? So, but generally it only showed, and so this was not how it was advertised. So when I wasn't happy about this, so I went back to the store, and they basically said it was just tough luck. Well, I felt this wasn't, as described. I felt that maybe they already knew about this, and it was, I think, at the time in a sale. I think they probably knew about this at the time, and I wasn't happy. So they said I couldn't have my money back, and that was that. But I think they did say something along the lines of there may be a way of me getting my money back if I posted it back to head office. I thought this was absolutely ridiculous. So I wasn't happy, So I got trading standards involved. Now, trading standards is basically, in simple terms, the government. Okay? Trading standards is a government organisation. There are many of them all over the country. There are local ones all over the country, but the general principle of the organisation is that it prosecutes businesses for not following business practice laws. Okay? And you would be surprised how fast Maplin changed their mind once trading standards got involved. When I reported to them and I showed them, that the model, it was reported in the press that this particular model would no longer, the prim guide would no longer work, and explain why. And I also showed, articles about this and other things. You would be surprised how fast Maplin changed their mind once a member of Trading Standards walked into the local Maplin store. I think they absolutely, wet themselves, to be brutally honest. Because the next thing I knew, I think behind the scenes they probably panicked. They probably phoned up head office and said, "What do we do?" And head office probably panicked when they heard that Trading Standards were in the store, and they said, "Look, just give the guys money back." So the next thing I knew, Trading Standards phoned me up and said that they'd visited the store and that the store had changed their mind and said I could get my money back if I turned up, fairly soon. And so I turned up that day, and that day after, but this wasn't the same day that I originally complained. This was a few days later after Trading Standards had gone there. And once Trading Standards had gone there, Maplin changed their mind and said if I turned up, I'd get my money back. I did turn up, and I did get my money back. And it was a sad experience for me because up until that point, I had always had a colossal amount of respect for Maplin as a retailer. More than most shops, even. And you might think, why? Well, for those who don't know, Maplin it still sort of exists, but not in the same way anymore, because it did go bankrupt and then resurfaced as an online store, but that's another matter. But basically, Maplin was well known over here as an electronics store. They sold other things as well, like set-top boxes and some other things, but they were mostly known as an electronics store. If you were interested in personal electronics and you like playing around with transistors and resistors and capacitors and you're of a certain age where you could buy all this stuff yourself and build your own radio, your own miniature radio, if you were into that kind of thing, they were the shop to go to. And unlike most shops, their staff really, really, really knew what they were talking about. Really. They're probably one of the most competent staff I've ever come across, generally. Because most of them had a degree in electronics, just to work there. So that somebody could come in and start talking about their electronics hobby, and they would know exactly what they were talking about, and they could provide all the parts for exactly what they wanted. They really did know their stuff. Really. Okay? I think later on they started employing less knowledgeable staff, but during their heyday, they really knew their stuff. Really. And I have a lot of personal respect for that. Because with most shops, they haven't got a clue what they're selling, but they'll do all the processing, but if you ask them for help, they often haven't got a clue what the hell they're talking about, to be honest. But they assume you know what you want, and you just buy it, and they'll just take the money off you, right? But Maplin staff really, really knew what they're talking about because they employed electronics graduates, especially to work in the store. Anyway, that aside, the second time I complained to Trading Standards was over J K Rowling's book, The Cuckoo's Calling. I think it was that one. Anyway, it was the one where she wrote it pretending to be a man, pretending to be an ex-army man that wrote it, but in reality she wrote it, okay? And so if I've got the wrong book, I apologise. I'm not thinking at the moment, but it was the one I mean, about the army guy, right? And maybe I've got completely the wrong one. I may have completely the wrong book, but I know it's the one featuring the army guy, and I'll put a correction if it's wrong, okay? I'm not currently looking at that at the moment, right? But anyway, she wrote this book. I think it might not even be the Quickies calling it, but anyway, it's whatever the Army Guy book was that she wrote, okay? But she wrote it pretending to have been a genuine army guy, right? Who wrote the book, who wrote the story, who wrote the novel, right? And I complained this was wrong. When she was exposed as the true author, I complained to Trading Standards, saying that what she'd done was illegal. Because on the back of the book, it claimed that the author had been in, I believe, been in the army, maybe even mentioned the SAS. I can't remember the entire description, but it was all about her, and somebody had been in the army, spent many years in the army. Personally, the novelist himself. Not the character in the story, but the actual novelist who wrote the story, right? And so I felt that this was fraud. Because to the best of my knowledge, J K Rowling had never been in the army in her life, to the best of my knowledge. And to my knowledge, she's never had any military career of any kind. So I did feel that it was fraud on several levels. I felt it was fraud because she was impersonating a former military soldier. I also felt it was fraud because there may have been some people who'd been duped into it, who felt that they were financially supporting somebody who'd served their country, had retired, and was now trying to find an alternative career. Okay? So I basically reported it on those grounds. Trading Standards, however, didn't seem to want to do anything about it. Basically because she was probably so famous. I think they were scared stiff. But I did get a letter back from them where they basically said they thought it would not be in the public interest to prosecute her, as she actually made more money once her true identity was revealed than she did when nobody knew it was really written by her. In other words, they let her get away with breaking the law. But that's another matter. So this will probably be the third time I've contacted Trading Standards, when I do get round to doing it, over this headset. It's a shame. I like the headset. It does what I want, and I'm happy with it. The only complaint I possibly have, apart from the obvious, it didn't have what it said, was it might be a bit heavy on the head, and not as comfortable on the head as, for example, these ones are. But it might be a better microphone. It may be more durable. This was a cheap and nasty one, which seems to still work, but I did have an identical one to this, which broke. So that's why I got one, which I thought would be more durable. But I'm just very disappointed that they would lie and cheat their customers. I believe Tesco is probably genuine, which is the retailer, is probably genuinely an innocent victim in this as well. I believe the manufacturer has done this deliberately, and there's other people apparently complained. I didn't bother reading the review because I was just walking around the shop and I just happened to see it. It was the only one I saw in the supermarket which would work with a PC directly, without any special cables or anything. And so I got it. And I'm just very disappointed that trust would betray the trust of their customers. And I'm very disappointed in them as a company, because, okay, they didn't make the best quality products, but they lasted, and they did what they said they would do. I've never felt scammed by them before, and I've bought many, many of their products in the past. I've never felt scammed by them before until now. To be honest, if it hadn't said it had the inline remote, and it hadn't had the inline mute button, I might still have bought it, just because it would work, and it looked more durable than some of the other ones. But I'm just very disappointed that they would do this. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.